What is the greatest comeback to an insult you've ever heard? A friend in high school on our way to a track meet. He was staring at a car in the parking that was really nice. When this bag saw him. Bag, why bothering looking at that when you know you'll never be able to get one? My friend, the same reason you watch porn. The entire bus erupted, and it's still one of the funniest things I've ever heard. A dude in my class called out a semi-friend of mine that people are talking behind his back. In fact, that wasn't the case, as far as I know, and that guy said, well, you know what they say about you? Nothing. Nobody fucking cares. I'm just impressed that you're friends with a semi. Working construction remodeling apartments and we were all done for the day. Hanging out in the parking lot chatting. Guy walks up, who we could tell he had Down syndrome, and asks what are we up to? The smart ass of the crew said about 6'1" and guy with Down syndrome said he didn't know they stacked shit that high. Best insult I remember to this day. I asked my mother why she always wears makeup despite being in her 40s. She told me she wears makeup so she doesn't look like me. Edit. I was 9. Many years ago, when we were about 18, a friend of mine was arguing with another person we knew. This person was trying to be a badass and intimidate my buddy. He says my feet are registered. Without missing a beat my friend replies where? Health and sanitation? 40 years later I still crack up at this when it comes to mind. I used to work with this like 70-year-old woman. She was a supervisor, and one day one of the ladies who worked with us told this old lady to kiss my ass and the old lady replied, where do I start? You're so fat your crack goes all the way up your back. Chelsea Handler told Russell Brand, the way you are looking at me makes me want to cover my vagina. He replied, ma'am, if I had a rubber glove, I'd do it for you. Crowd burst into laughter and she even acknowledged that was good. Someone yelled out in a Walmart, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Another voice echoed back, that's your parents' job. During WW1, Switzerland had a tiny standing army, but they were very skilled marksmen. Wilhelm II of Germany asked what 250k Swiss troops would do if he decided to invade with 500k German troops. The Swiss said, shoot twice and go home. I was the one insulted, but not the one with the comeback. I was out with a co-worker and her friends and my buddy and I were leaving a little too early for her sensibilities. She jokingly got up in my face and said, smell that? Smells like pussy. A guy playing at the pool table next to us stepped forward and said, I'm sorry, that must be me. I just ate. It was amazing. On a construction site one afternoon, different trades were working in the same area. Like silly team sports, the Sparkies always hang with the Sparkies and the Turd Wranglers always hang with the Turd Wranglers, and anytime they're together it turns into a pointless dick measuring contest, usually not literally. One particularly childish exchange saw two men chopping back and forth, my dick biggest, blah blah blah. Finally one of them spits out this classic, I've got girth like a can of con. And the clap back was unforgettable. But you've got length like a can of tuna. Everyone busted up. Mr. Girth tried to hide his embarrassment, but was tied up. No comeback. And a room of men laughing uncontrollably. Good times. The classic, you're adopted, at least my parents chose to have me. Had a friend growing up who had an adopted brother a year or so younger. They would always talk shit and fight a bit here and there, and one time my friend says to his brother that he was adopted and can go fuck off. He knew he was adopted, and without missing a beat he shot back at my friend, yeah well clearly you weren't enough for mom and dad. That's why they bought me. Yes, he used the word bought. A friend of mine was getting bitched at by these two identical twin girls in a class I had once. He replied with a troubling look on his face and said, if you two are identical, how come only one of you are hot? That dude played the long game as those two girls looked rather perplexed for the rest of the session. Asterisk FIXED. 18th century British radical politician John Wilkes was told in Parliament by a political opponent, sir, I do not know whether you will die on the gallows or of the pox. Wilkes shot back with, that depends, my lord, on whether I embrace your lordship's principles or your mistress. Glenn McGrath, Aussie cricketer, got frustrated with Ed O'Brands as his every attempt to stump Brands failed. This is what happened next. McGrath, why are you so fat? Brands, because every time I fuck your wife, she gives me a biscuit. If you weren't so stupid, what would you be? Asks the husband. The wife replies, without even skipping a beat, single. My grandma got into a fight at the grocery store with a guy who told my 9-year-old brother to move the fuck out of the way. They were going at it, and his final words were "suck my dick, bitch," she said across the store. If I could find it, bitch. Edit, not warm it. Even better oldie. English class in middle school. Kid A, yo. Kid B, your mama waited on me at McDonald's last night. Must feel like shit having a mom that works at McDonald's. Kid B, at least my mom gets out of bed to go to work. English teacher far louder than he realized. Damn. The rest of us were laughing so hard, the teacher next door popped her head in to see what was going on. Definitely a great comeback, but not to an insult, more to an annoyance. I was a camp counselor for a few years at a summer camp. One day my group took a hike to a large rock where we had lunch. My campers were between 8 and 10 years old. This one kid we'll call Jeff keeps poking another kid we'll call Matt in my group to look at this hole in the rock. It's so cool. It's like 6 inches deep and the other kid is clearly getting annoyed just trying to eat his lunch. He keeps shoving sticks into the hole and trying to get everybody to look at it. Finally Matt just puts down his sandwich, looks at Jeff, and goes, "I'll be 6 inches deep in your mom later if you don't shut up." I was trying so hard to be stern with this kid for saying something so inappropriate, but I kept cracking up. It was just such a disproportionately ridiculous thing to say coming from a 9-year-old. On an Indian roast show, there were 2 bald twin brothers and the roaster told them, "You two confuse me on a biological level. You two look like testicles, but you are both assholes." I'm still waiting for an opportunity to use that. One of my co-workers was cold calling customers, trying to get appointments to drum up business. One of them told him to go fuck his hand, and he responded with, "I've got that penciled in for 3. I should be done by 4. If you'd like to come in for an appointment then." The guy laughed his ass off and ended up coming in for the appointment. Saw a clip of a stand-up comedian the other day, and he says something along the lines of, "The first time I had sex it was terrible. The first time I had sex." And a woman chimes in with, "You mean yesterday?" Crowd laughs for a while, and while the comedian is waiting for them to calm down you can see the gears turn in his head. Once it gets down to basically a few chuckles, he just says, "Glad you remember," and the crowd just lost their shit. It was amazing. I work at a hotel. A few years ago this guest got into a spat with our security officer over something, but she wasn't getting whatever she wanted, so she told him he was full of S underscore. Our security officer replied immediately, "No I'm not. I took care of that this morning. But thank you for your concern for my good health and regularity." At this time I was about to bust up laughing, so I had to excuse myself to the back office, and as I was leaving I heard him continuing on with this lady, deadpan, "But I promise I eat a healthy diet full of fiber. It warms my heart to know you're concerned with me having regular bowel movements. So the next time I'm constipated I know you're thinking of me." It continued on, and all the more he's playing this deadpan, and it's making the lady madder and madder, and I'm in the back laughing so hard I'm nearly crying. After that spiel was over though she didn't give us any more problems the rest of the night.